Hello, and welcome to Day by Day True Crime Stories, the podcast where we explore a different crime or justice event from this day in history. I'm your host, Kona Gallagher, and today is May 19th. On this day in 2016, Logan Schiendelman left his grandmother's house in Tumwater, Washington, after saying that he'd experienced an epiphany. He never returned. What followed was a series of bizarre events involving a deserted vehicle, conflicting eyewitness accounts, and a frustratingly stalled investigation. Today, we're delving into the mysterious and unsolved disappearance of Logan Schiendelman. Let's get started. Logan Drew Schiendelman was born on June 27, 1996 in Olympia, Washington. He was of mixed racial heritage, Black, white, and Saudi Arabian, but grew up disconnected from most of his cultural roots. His mother, Hannah, had a brief relationship with a Saudi man who had been working in Washington on a visa. But after he returned to his home country, Hannah raised Logan for a time on her own before asking her own mother, Ginny, to assume custody while she pursued her education. Logan spent his childhood in Tumwater, a small, predominantly white community. There, he lived with his white grandmother, Ginny, and his half-sister, Chloe. While he was surrounded by a loving family, Logan often felt like an outsider, especially as he grew more aware of his racial identity and the lack of connection that he had either to his Black or Saudi side. In high school, Logan was a popular student and a star football player, but a racially charged incident during his senior year became a turning point for him. At a party, Logan was the target of racist jokes and slurs. That event deeply affected him. It wasn't just the insults, but the silence of his friends. No one stuck up for him. That night when he got home, he told his grandmother, Ginny, quote, "They weren't even there for me. I thought I had friends, but I don't," end quote. After that, Logan withdrew from his social circles and decided to attend Washington State University, partly because no one he knew was going there. Unfortunately, college didn't bring the fresh start he was hoping for. Logan struggled academically and was dismissed after his freshman year. He returned to Tumwater, working odd jobs and trying to find direction in his life. By May 2016, Logan was living back at home with his grandmother, his sister Chloe, and Chloe's boyfriend, a man with a criminal history who did not get along with Logan. Tensions in the house were high, and Logan had also by that point become increasingly introspective. He was smoking marijuana, and according to Ginny, he was experiencing some paranoia. On the morning of May 19th, Logan surprised Ginny by being up early. He told her that he'd been out driving and had experienced an epiphany. Ginny, who was running late for work, told him that they could talk about it that evening. But Logan was gone by the time she got home, and he never came back. Now, initially, Ginny wasn't alarmed. When Logan's phone pinged in nearby Olympia, she assumed that he was visiting his mom. But when days passed with no word from him, she grew concerned. On May 22nd, after confirming with Hannah that Logan hadn't been there with her, Ginny tried to report him missing. But she was turned away because it was the weekend. It wasn't until May 23rd that a formal missing persons report was filed. Once the missing persons investigation started, the first thing that the sheriff's office did was run Logan's license plate because his car was missing too. And it came back as having been impounded 3 days earlier. His 1996 Chrysler Sebring had been found abandoned in the middle of I-5 near Maytown. Inside were Logan's wallet, driver's license, debit card, and unopened snacks. Items that suggested that he hadn't intended to be gone from the car for very long. But because Logan hadn't yet been reported missing when the car was impounded, it wasn't treated as a potential crime scene. It was just treated as an abandoned vehicle. So any forensic evidence that it might have held was lost during the impound process. More disturbingly, though, several 911 calls have been made the day the car was found. Witnesses reported seeing the vehicle drift across multiple lanes before hitting the median. Others claimed that a white man jumped out of the car's passenger side and ran into the woods. A search of the surrounding area, complete with K9 units and a heat-sensing aircraft, turned up nothing. Rumors swirled. One person claimed to have seen a black man with no pants running near the highway. Others speculated that Logan may have been experimenting with harder drugs or suffering from a mental health crisis. One Facebook post, even though it was from a year earlier, sparked speculation that Logan had flown to Saudi Arabia to find his father. But he didn't have a passport, and there's no evidence that he ever left the country. Now, police did question Chloe's boyfriend given his criminal background and his strained relationship with Logan. But he passed a polygraph and was ruled out, though Logan's uncle, who's a former police officer, remained skeptical. In June 2017, over a year after Logan's disappearance, a new witness came forward. She said that she saw Logan's car on the day he went missing. More significantly, she claimed to have seen 2 white men and 1 black man standing at the rear of the car. She described one of the men in vivid detail. He was blonde with a bowl-cut hair, a crop top, and tight jean shorts. A police sketch has been released, but it hasn't led to any solid leads. Despite no confirmed sightings or forensic breakthroughs, Logan's family refuses to give up. His grandmother and mother remain active on social media. Supporters display Find 29 bumper stickers across Tumwater. 29 was his football jersey. Painted rocks with Logan's image and case info are left on hiking trails to spark public interest. Logan's family also believes that people in the community may know more than they're saying. An Instagram post from the account Bring Back Logan reads, quote, "If this is true, I would implore you to reconsider your choice to remain silent. You cannot imagine the daily stress, emotional pain, and depression Logan's family and friends are experiencing." End quote. Logan Schiendelman was a young man at a crossroads. He was dealing with identity struggles, academic setbacks, and social isolation. Whether he encountered foul play, suffered a mental health crisis, or something else entirely, his disappearance remains one of Washington's most unsettling unsolved cases. We've covered the case of Logan Schiendelman on my Missing Persons podcast, and then they were gone. For a more in-depth episode on his story, you can find that in your podcast feed. You can either search his name or just find our episode by the date it originally aired, June 16th, 2021. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of Day by Day True Crime Stories. If you found Logan's story compelling, please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. It'll help us grow. And be sure to join me again tomorrow as we explore another significant event in true crime history. Until then, stay safe and remember that behind every headline is a life worth remembering. Day by Day True Crime Stories is a Little Monster production.
Hey, you can do it!